Okay, so we're going to talk about equivalent fractions. So when you look at the word equivalent, you see this EQU. It's very close to the word equal. And that is a lot of that's what equivalent fractions are. We're looking for fractions that even though their numerators and denominators are different, they represent the same part of a whole. So there's a couple different ways that we can find equivalent fractions. Before Christmas, we talked about some ways, and we said that we could draw models, but we know that models aren't always the best because we're humans and we're not perfect, and sometimes fractions are really, really close to being equivalent, but they're not quite. But if we were to draw a model, it might look like they were. So models, they're not our best strategy, but we can use multiplication and division to find some equivalent fractions. So I'm going to show you an example. If we have 1/3, we can find a fraction that's equivalent to 1/3. The biggest thing when you find equivalent fractions is whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. And whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So if I want to find the equivalent fraction, maybe I'm going to multiply by 5. So if I multiply the top by 5, I have to do the same thing to the bottom. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So I just found out that 1/3 is equivalent to 5/15. But is that the only thing it's equivalent to? 1/3 equals, maybe I want to multiply by 10 this time. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 1 times 10 is 10. 3 times 10 is 30. So now I know that 1/3 is equivalent to 5/15 and to 10/30. So there are an unlimited number of equivalent fractions you can find for any given fraction. So you might see where it says 2/3 equals blank ninth, or they might put a variable in there. And it's going to say, how can you figure out what that numerator is? Well, we know multiplication and division can find us equivalent fractions. Addition and subtraction cannot. So you can't add to find equivalent fractions. You have to multiply or divide. So let's see. I don't know what x is, so the numerator's not really going to help me, but the denominator could. 3, do I multiply 3 by something or divide to get 9? I multiply, and 3 times what equals 9? It's 3 times 3. So I know whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 3 is 6. That means that 2/3 is equivalent to 6/9. But what if they give you 2 fractions? They're not going to tell you they're equal. They're going to say, are these 2 fractions equivalent, or 3/4 and 2/8 equivalent? Well, we can figure that out. Can I do something to get from 4 to 8? Can I multiply by something? I can do 4 times 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I would have to do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. That's not it. So they are, you can draw an equal sign with an X through it. Those 2 are not equivalent. So you can use multiplication and division to find equivalent fractions, and you can also use it to check and see if fractions that they give you, if they give you 2 sets of fractions, are they equal? Are they the same?